sometimes you can word things differently, and it doesn't look as restrictive as a condition as asking for a period of financing. Because when you ask for that period of financing, it really just sounds like you don't have your finances together, right? It kind of seems like you haven't gone to a mortgage broker, you don't know where you're at, and it just seems less enticing. And there's other ways to write that, and maybe using a due diligence clause, that comes off a little bit different than asking for a 5-day condition for financing period. So
when someone's looking at maybe using private or B lenders, what's the typical turnaround time they can kind of expect or they should budget for when asking for those conditions?
Yeah, so that B lender or that Schedule II bank, and just so everybody understands, when we talk about B lenders, we aren't talking about private lenders. We're talking about Schedule II conventional residential lenders. So it's going to be the same timeline as a conventional type purchase on the A side. 4 weeks is an ideal turnaround time. 15-day closes. Can you do them? Sure. Is it ideal? It's definitely not ideal. You better have all your ducks in a row.
Yeah, and taking a step back there, Aaron, just even on the condition period side of things.
Yeah, definitely. So financing conditions, 5 days to be safe, 5 business days to make sure that we.
And those business days are important, right? Like, yes. I know we're coming up on a civic holiday. Understand, guys, bankers will take every holiday offered to them always. So we need to factor that in. And it can actually make a real difference when you're writing that offer. If you're smart enough to put 5 business days, that looks way less intimidating than saying 8 or 9 days if you're trying to squeeze in, a holiday weekend and you've got 2 weekends and all that. From just the layman's perspective, looking at that contract, if I see 5 business days or 10 days, I'm going to almost always assume that 5 business days is shorter, even though it may end up being the exact same amount of time. So it's also important to think through how we frame that. But yeah, it's just really important that you don't accidentally hamstring yourself. Because if you said 5 days and it's Friday right now, well, Saturday, Sunday, maybe a holiday Monday's in there, and all of a sudden now you're just giving Aaron 2 days to try and figure this out. As an aspiring investor, if someone's looking to try and qualify for a mortgage for $200,000 to $300,000, they've only had $15,000 a year in income. What sorts of options are out there? I'm going to guess that this isn't going to end up being a 0% down sort of deal.
Yeah, it's if you're aspiring, obviously, my understanding would be that you don't have a portfolio to leverage for any collateral equity.
But let's explore that just for a second, because oftentimes that is an opportunity for existing investors that they overlook. Yeah. So, and this is a good opportunity. Yeah. 100% financing. It gets thrown around a lot. And I mean, there's really 2 ways that you could potentially achieve some sort of 100% financing. And the first and the best way is have collateral equity and be able to use that equity to securitize a private mortgage and allow the lender to feel a little more safe in going, whether it's 95, 98, 100%, 100% being the ideal, but securitizing that loan with the security of the collateral equity. What that does when you collateralize a piece of property that has equity, it gives the lender the ability to essentially have access to that equity in your other property in case you default on your mortgage. So, if you're looking to borrow $100,000 for your down payment and you have a property that, let's just say, is free and clear, and you collateralize that property, and the lender is going to give you that additional loan to value up to 100% in the form of a collateralized mortgage. So what they're going to do is, 20% down, so it's a $500,000 property. They're going to register $500,000 on your subject property that you're purchasing. They're also going to register that $500,000 on your collateralized property. And what that does is, if you default on your mortgage, the lender has to take that property and go power of sale. By the time they list that property on the market, it sits on the market, it depreciates in value. The likelihood of them getting that full face value back to the property decreases. So they offset that risk by putting a collateral charge on your other property, so that any equity they lose from the loan amount, so if they sell that property for $400,000, they can take that $100,000 extra out of your other property and recoup. So that's where that risk of having 100% financing with collateralization comes in, because that means you have to be able to give up that equity in that other property. Now, they understand going power sale in your other property may not be the best idea. They may allow you to find some other way to liquidate a car or assets to make that up, because it's a long process. But
In the worst case situation, it means selling your other property and leveraging that equity to be able to give back, or finding a way to utilize that equity. So understanding the risks. The other way can be with buying an undervalued property and using a purchase based off of the appraised value of the property. Now, it can be hit and miss with this, and you guys got to understand, like, depending on who the lender is and what type of property it is, you're going to have mixed results with this.